Whitney's putting out 650 horsepower at full throttle. And in the hot Texas weather, the temperature gauges will be on the red line in no time. Have to fly with their cockpits closed for speed. And with the cockpits closed, the temperature inside gets to be at least 125 to 130 degrees. The throttle handles are made out of aluminum, and they'll be so hot that you can't even touch them with your bare hands. Though their eyes are continuously burning with perspiration, they have to keep looking right out there every second. After a race like that, there's only one place to go. Right into Dick Rosser's pool. From there, you can enjoy the sights. And the sounds. Then it's all over. The last race plane shuts off its engines. The last spectator takes off for home. First time, man is quiet, and only the sounds of nature are heard. The airport is no longer an airport. It's a ghost town, deserted, lying in the sun. Okay, here we are on the second day of our cross-country trip to Oshkosh. Destination Wichita, 500 miles. 20 minutes east of Albuquerque, my oil temperature suddenly went to the red line. Fortunately, there was a little dirt strip called Moriarty nearby. It was deserted, but a guy driving by on the road saw me land. He came over to see if he could help. He was a great help. As if I didn't have enough problems, there was a big New Mexico rainstorm heading my way. If it hit before I could get this thing fixed and airborne, that soft dirt runway out there would turn into a oozing mass of mud and I wouldn't get out for several days. We worked fast. Ever try to get a pipe wrench to do a crescent wrench job? We found the problem in the bypass valve that allowed the oil to go to the cooler. We fixed it, but then I realized my problems were hardly over. I'd forgotten that we were at an altitude of 6,200 feet, which meant that because the air was so thin, I wouldn't get very good lift. Especially since I was flying a heavy old wooden airplane that wasn't designed for taking off at high altitude airports. It had full tanks of gas and only 175 horsepower. Not only that, but I had to take off into the wind, which meant that I had to fly right into the storm, which was now at the far end of the runway. Made it, and not a second too soon. ...30 miles later, Tucumcari, New Mexico. I'd lost a lot of valuable time. There was another 400 miles to Wichita, so again I rammed down a greasy burger, filled that tank, and took off. Northeast out of Tucumcari and following Route 54. I'd get to Wichita that night, and if the weather held, the next morning would be nice. The next morning, the weather was great. That night, I'd be in Oshkosh. I was flying to Oshkosh to attend the Experimental Aircraft Association Convention and Exhibition. It lasts for 1 whole week, and it's the greatest flying of them all.
Currently, the picture is reporting 25,000 pins scattered, 10 plus, with a temperature of 92. Wind 180 at 14, with a few cumulus to the south. There's no fronts in the area, the visibility unrestricted.
Osceola, Iowa. I had to phone the guy in town to come out and unlock the gas pump for me. I carry my own oil because the Ranger engine uses 60-weight non-detergent, and, well, most airports don't even have it. The debriefing room was out and back. Brother, was it out and back. Oh, well, there's always those good old Iowa cornfields. Southwest of Waterloo, Iowa, I ran into some rain. It was clear northwest and southeast, but the showers were right on my path. You don't fly through bad rainstorms, ever. But sometimes you can skirt around these small summer showers and work your way between them. Of course, if worse came to worse, I could always sit down in some old patch. Yeah, I'd just put her down, lay underneath the wing till the rain stops. The visibility was getting worse. I realized I'd have to sit down somewhere. There was a place just ahead called Ovine, Iowa. Flying cross country, I run into storms, like this one, rough winds, bad visibility. I've gotten lost. I had oil problems over New Mexico. And they were all problems I never quite got used to because they were never quite the same. But because each was a test of my patience or my ingenuity or my courage, it helped me to develop and grow as a person, as well as a pilot. So I guess you could say that my airplane is a vehicle through which I can reach something higher within myself. Eventually, of course, I always get to my destination, but it's always sort of anticlimactic because the high point of every flight is what I've learned along the way. There's a special joy for me in being released from the bonds of Earth, and the combination of the pure fresh air and the feeling of flight are my antidotes for the poisons of Earth. You know, it seems that if a person's hobby could come close to his religion, then for me flying would come closer than anything else. Because in space, I get an image of infinity. And that's truly a religious experience. The next morning, the weather was still crummy, but stable, so we'll finally get to Oshkosh. Mississippi River. And there's the big Mississippi River. On the other side of that river is Wisconsin. Boy, look at that bridge. On the concrete Omni. Well, the sun finally poked through. That really made me feel better. A patch of sunlight, and above it a patch of blue. Madison, Wisconsin. Yeah, it won't be long now. Lake Winnebago. And finally,
Oshkosh Tower, this is Fairchild 72 Charlie, 5 miles south for landing. 72 Charlie, Oshkosh Tower, altimeter 29 or 9 or 2, wind 280 at 4, make a straight in runway.
aside from the home builts and antiques on display, there are 5,000 factory-built planes in the transit parking area. In the campground, 20,000 campers. To keep this many people organized, it takes an awful lot of signs. Sometimes a man on his way to the debriefing room finds them a little confusing. This is a control tower, where 18 of the greatest air traffic controllers in the world work in 3 shifts to make sure no one gets killed. In 6.5 days, they'll handle 65,000 operations. That's about